At the legislature today, concerned parents were at the Capitol asking that their children be exempt from getting school vaccinations. Counties and cities where coal is extracted receive a benefit from the severance tax. Oil and gas counties and communities could be getting the same under a bill passing a Senate committee today. And we'll find out more about Reconnecting McDowell, a partnership to improve education and the county's economic future, on the legislature today. Good evening, I'm Beth Voorhees. When is an insurance company not an insurance company? When it's the Public Employees Insurance Agency, which provides medical insurance to state, county, and municipal employees. Officials at PEIA asked the legislature to make it exempt from all the laws in the state insurance code. The bill passed the Senate last week, but today the House Committee on Banking and Insurance turned it down. As Adam Cavalier reports, the bill caused some pause as to what it would actually do.
Senate Bill 499 would have clarified into code that the PEIA was exempted from behaving as an insurance agency under Chapter 33 of the state code. Kanawha County Democrat Mark Hunt voiced opposition to the bill in committee. Hunt says the bill would put policyholders in a tough spot.
Chapter 33 of the code is designated and designed to regulate insurance companies and to protect insureds from unfair trade practices that insurance companies may perpetrate against their insureds. This bill simply would have removed PEIA completely from Chapter 33. So we would have set up a two-tier system where everybody else in West Virginia would have the protections of Chapter 33, and if you were a PEIA insured, you would not have the protections of Chapter 33. Simply unfair to state employees, simply unfair to persons who are covered by PEIA insurance.
The bill failed by voice vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
No.
Noes appears to have it.
Counsel John Reed says the bill would make it apparent that the agency did not fall under the governance of the insurance commissioner.
It also specifically provides in the bill that PEIA is not an insurer or engaged in the business of insurance as defined in Chapter 33. And I should say it is to be noted that among other provisions in Chapter 33 that are especially made inapplicable to PEIA, the bill would clarify that the Unfair Trade Practices Act provisions in Chapter 33 do not apply to PEIA or any plan administered by it.
The Insurance Commission's Tim Murphy says the bill would have made law what is already happening.
We have never considered PEIA to be under Chapter 33 generally. The separate regulatory scheme completely. They make their own rates and forms, et cetera, their own enforcement procedures. 3 years ago, our general counsel answered the exact questions up now. Is the UTPA applicable to PEIA? And said no and explained why. It's just a completely different system. And we never have. It's they're self-insured, the state. They're not a licensed insurer. We don't license PEIA.
Insurance Committee Vice Chair Daniel Hall indicated he was a bit surprised that the measure failed because the bill would have put present practices into law. Hall says as a result, he could see the issue reversed and PEIA being fully included in the provisions of Chapter 33.
I get the impression that some of the members of the Insurance Committee in the future will be trying to address that issue and maybe turn that around. And Delegate Hunt brought up a good question of why aren't customers or policyholders of PEIA given the same protections that the other private industry is given. And I thought he brought up a very good question. Even though the insurance commissioner is already enforcing the law the way they're interpreting it now, I think that the purpose of the committees, their concerns were to give larger protections to the customers and the policyholders out there, and that gave them pause for great concern. So the bill died pretty quick.
The committee did not call PEIA Director Ted Cheatham to answer questions about the bill that his organization requested. Hall says ultimately the committee had too many issues with the bill.
The House Insurance Committee is a very conscientious group looking out for the citizens of the state, and in this case, the public employees. All those fall under that insurance. And as chairman today, running the committee, I allowed the committee to express their own opinion. and it was pretty clear that they were not in favor of the bill.
Nothing in the House is ever dead. There's still an opportunity if there's a good reason to pass the bill. I just didn't see a good reason to deprive PEIA insureds of the protections afforded everybody else.
It's unlikely the bill can be revisited with crossover day a week away. Bills are due out of their committees Sunday to ensure they are read 3 times on the House floor. The Banking and Insurance Committee isn't scheduled to meet until next week. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Adam Cavalier in Charleston.
With just 4 days left for bills to make it out of their committees, Putnam County Republican Brian Sevilla took to the House floor to implore lawmakers to consider moving on House Bill 4500, Andrea's Law. The bill increases the penalties for causing death or injury while driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs.
Any one of us can have our lives taken by somebody who's irresponsible. It's the same thing as shooting someone. It's the same thing as stabbing someone. It's murder. Right now, it's called vehicular manslaughter, vehicular homicide. There's really no penalty for it. I got a letter, and I'm getting emails like crazy about this. I don't know if you all are getting emails about it, but I'm getting personal stories, phone calls, children coming to talk to me, and everything else. It just tears my heart out. I had an email from a woman who lost her daughter. The guy who killed her was going to 79 to 35, had double the alcohol, was double the legal limit. He got 45 days in jail, 3 years probation, and he didn't even get a DUI.
The bill is still in the House Judiciary Committee. It would increase the penalty for killing someone while driving drunk to second-degree murder. A small but determined group of parents continues to demand that the legislature grant them the right to refuse to have their children vaccinated. The Rally for Parental Rights was sponsored by a group called We the Parents. They claim West Virginia is one of only 2 states which will not permit parents the option of not having their children immunized before entering school. They call it forced vaccination. The legislation is now in the Senate Education Committee, and they want it considered. The group's leader, Lori Lee, and the Senate Education Chairman, Robert Plymel, have differing opinions.
Quite honestly, we're not anti-vaccine, we're pro-choice. We understand and we support people who do need to get their children vaccinated, but we believe that it is the parent's choice and that government should not force any kind of forced medication or vaccination.
I heard from them, and I think that I'll be glad to put this in a study and where we can look at it from a more comprehensive standpoint. And the other thing is I'm not sure this really belongs in education. I think this is more of a health issue. Even though it does affect education, I think that this is more a policy that's on the health side.
The group contends some of the vaccines use morally objectionable fetal tissue, and others have unacceptable health risks. The legislation remains inactive. West Virginia counties, which are now producing or could produce more natural gas and oil, might be getting a benefit from the state severance tax. The Senate Energy, Industry, and Mining Committee today approved a bill doing just that. Bob Brunner explains.
Last year, a similar legislative action began returning more coal severance tax money to the counties where the coal was produced. Now there is legislation to do the same with a portion of the gas and oil severance tax. The State Department of Revenue says it will cost the overall state budget about $3 million. The bill gives 2% of the tax back to the county where the gas was produced and 1% to cities in that county. 2 of the senators whose counties benefited from the coal tax return say the gas and oil return is only fair.
It's meant everything to us, and we've used it for infrastructure, we use it for various projects, and the coal severance tax in our region has given us an economic opportunity we certainly would not have had.
What would oil and gas do?
Well, if you listen to the numbers, down the road maybe quite a bit. It's nice to spread the wealth around the state, but it's not going to be a huge impact to us right off, but any additional funds, $40,000, $50,000 into your budget, you can do things with.
It would be hypocritical for me if I didn't vote for this, because we certainly had, we had about 5% coming back to the county of origin, and we're going to phase in another 5% back to the county of origin, and the numbers are different between coal severance tax and the the oil and gas tax. So it's a huge impact down south where we are. We think we can use this next phase-in money, 5%, that's dedicated solely for infrastructure, economic development, in a better way so that we can help diversify our economy. That's very important for us down there. We're so dependent on coal right now, and it's driven not only our area but the entire state of West Virginia.
The measure was amended to end the requirement that all municipalities report in detail what was being done with the funds. While the city of Charleston gets more than $40,000, the tiny town of Thurmond got $4.11. Only amounts above $5,000 will now require reports. Representatives of several coal counties say that extra severance tax money has meant a lot to local budgets. Now, counties which could produce a lot more oil and especially natural gas say those kind of benefits could come to them as well. The proposal now goes to the Finance Committee and could be moved to the Senate floor as early as next week. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Bob Brenner in Charleston.
The state Senate passed a dozen bills today involving such issues as dog breeding operations, deputies' pensions, innovation zones for schools, and apprentice hunting license. In an unusually heavy calendar, the Senate was unanimous in most of its votes. Among the bills now headed to the House of Delegates are measures permitting deputy sheriffs who get divorced to modify their retirement benefits. Also passing was Governor Tomlin's measure to make the McDowell County school system an innovation zone so it can enter into public-private partnerships to fund special projects. Commercial dog breeding operations will be inspected twice a year under another bill passed today. And there's legislation creating an apprentice license for someone who may be interested in hunting and trapping under the supervision of a licensed hunter. Senator Bill Laird sponsored the legislation.
I think it's important because it allows people to get oriented to the sport of hunting by being exposed to the sport before they're required to take the hunter safety training, which sometimes delays people's entry into the sport. So this gives them an opportunity to familiarize themselves with the wonderful sport of hunting, and from there make a lifelong decision concerning whether they're going to be that type of sportsman.
For the rest of this week, the Senate will meet twice a day to get more bills on the active calendar before the deadline for new legislation next week. In a moment, we'll find out more about the education campaign to reconnect McDowell County. First, here's a look at what's coming up in the Senate tomorrow. Up for passage in the Senate tomorrow, Senate Bill 501 to require health insurers to cover hearing aids for children under 18 years of age when prescribed by a licensed physician. Among the bills on second reading tomorrow, Senate Bill 496 to modify the Department of Environmental Protection's requirements to inventory emissions of greenhouse gases and eliminate unneeded provisions. It allows reporting under the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's mandatory reporting of greenhouse gases rule to satisfy such reporting requirements in West Virginia. Senate Bill 566 to authorize the Commissioner of Corrections to contract with nonprofit and charitable organizations for work release and inmate reentry services. The bill also allows circuit courts to directly place convicted defendants in such facilities. House Bill 4087 to extend the moratorium on the regular severance tax on timber until the additional workers' compensation debt reduction tax on severing timber expires. And House Bill 4415 to authorize a governing board to oversee the maintenance of the architecturally significant railroad station in Prince, West Virginia, which will serve passengers traveling to the new Boy Scouts of America Adventure Camp in Fayette County. Senate Bill 371, Governor Tomlin's bill to allow McDowell County to participate in the Reconnecting McDowell program to improve the county school system, heads to the House after Senate action today. This is a comprehensive effort to improve what's become a dire situation there. The American Federation of Teachers is leading the effort. And joining us tonight is Judy Hale, the president of AFT in West Virginia, and Bob Brown with the West Virginia School Service Personnel Association, one of the partners in this campaign. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you,
I'm anxious to hear more about this effort in McDowell County. First, for either one of you, Draw us a picture. What's the situation in McDowell County now that prompted you to take on this effort? Paint that picture for us.
Well, I think if you look at a lot of things, but the thing that jumps out first is the fact that in the last 40 years, the population of McDowell County has dropped from over 120,000 down to about 22,000 people. When the mine jobs played out and people began to leave, they left behind a county with very little infrastructure. And because of the lack of jobs, perhaps a sense of hopelessness. And actually, it was State Board Member Gail Manchin who brought us all to the table and got us started talking and thinking about McDowell County and what we might do if we were able to draw in a lot of partners to change the landscape, for lack of a better description, in McDowell County.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to add to that?
Well, McDowell County has been under state board control for over 10 years.
Has it been 10 years?
Over 10 years, and there hasn't been the kind of improvement that the state board would like to have seen, nor the people in McDowell County. And so Gail came to our national president, Randy Weingarten, and said, you know, we're not able to do what we need to do. And for obvious reasons, because what can be done in the classroom is not enough. There has to be a lot of other things that go on in order to create the kind of educational system that we all want for the children.
Now, when we say state board control, this is the State Board of Education going in, actually calling the shots in McDowell County now for 10 years.
Yes.
The County Board of Education is limited in what it can do. The county superintendent is placed by the state board. But this has to be entwined in the economics of the area. You mentioned the coal jobs are gone.
There's no question.
What kind of funding mechanisms are there in McDowell County? If the coal is gone, what's the tax base?
Well, frankly, the largest employer in the county right now is the County Board of Education.
Okay.
But McDowell Countyans are a proud and hardy people, and there is hope there, despite the fact that some people have fallen into a sense of hopelessness. But we've brought, I think, a pretty impressive and perhaps unprecedented array of partners to the table to try to look at what we can do. We've actually divided into about 5 different categories that we're going to look at, economic development being one of those. But we're looking at the transportation needs. There is not 1 foot of 4-lane divided highway in McDowell County. The sheer geography of the county makes it difficult to get from point A to point B. Certainly education will be the cornerstone of our initiative there, but there's a host of other things we're looking at. Health, substance abuse, economic development, transportation, a whole housing. There's a serious shortage of middle-class housings. Consequently, we can't get people to move into McDowell to work and teach in the schools.
That's an issue. That's a big issue. So once this is done, and this is a 5-year project, we'll talk about the process here in a minute, but the vision, once it's done, what do you want McDowell County to look like?
We want McDowell County to be a model for rural education, not only in West Virginia, a model that can be replicated.
Anywhere
not
in
just
Appalachia.
here,
Sure.
but across rural West Virginia, America. And as our Fortune 500 partner said, Cisco, maybe the world.
Oh, really? Can you kind of give me an idea of, okay, we have better housing, we have better roads, but what is the classroom going to look like? Do you put in all kinds of, there's talk about digital learning, virtual schools. Is this where you put all of those into play, and can they play in McDowell County?
Well,
I guess I'm looking for that kind of outcome.
The technology infrastructure is one of the pieces that we're taking a look at. And what we did, Beth, was to go into McDowell County and meet with hundreds, literally, of McDowell Countyans and ask them, what do you think the needs are, and how do you think we can solve these issues? Because this has to be a bottom-up process. It cannot be a top-down. And while it is unprecedented in that it is a private-public partnership, McDowell County, the community, the business community, the parents, the students, all have to be part of this solution.
It's important to have community buy-in here and community support.
It simply won't work without community buy-in. That's one of the reasons we went in and did the community forums and the community meetings. everyone in the community is going to have to buy into this project. We can't educate the children if the community is not engaged. Consequently, we are out working in the community as we speak, reaching out to particularly the faith-based community. That is one institution that has not only survived, it perhaps has thrived in the economic downturn. So we've made a tremendous reach to the faith-based community to engage them in this process.
4 projects are already underway, I understand. What are they?
Well, one of the things that we have, first of all, we had to have some money to start the process, the planning process. Benedum Foundation stepped up to the plate with $100,000 for the first 6 months of planning, as well as our national AFT with $150,000. So when you do something that is this enormous, that is this huge, an entire county, there's got to be money for the planning process. But then beyond that, we have had lots of groups step in and do some pretty amazing things.
For example, Frontier Communications very quickly stepped up and said, we'd like to contribute $100,000 to McDowell County. We see our role as connecting the dots. We like to find donors to people, practitioners, and operations on the ground that can make a difference. So we connected the $100,000 from Frontier to Global Laurea, which is overseen by Idee Caperton, a former Governor Caperton's wife. It's an incredible program. So we have $100,000 from them. Actually, the governor stepped up. He contributed $1 million to Save the Children. They're running some early childhood programs in 3 schools in McDowell as we speak. Just last Friday, I was walking through the Capitol, and Verizon walked up to me and said, we'd like to contribute some money to McDowell County, but we want it to go to literacy. So we picked up $50,000 from Verizon very quickly. So we've made a connection between Verizon and an organization called First Book that provides children's books for children to take home and own. The West Virginia AFL-CIO today presented a check for $6,500 to the Council of Southern Mountains to dig water lines to some potential middle-class houses being built near Welch.
If individuals want to help, can they?
Actually, they have. At an AFL legislative conference, after we had talked about McDowell, done a presentation, they wanted to take up a contribution, and in that room of a couple of hundred delegates to the conference, we got almost $1,500, and so it is amazing what has happened in terms of not just people like that, but large businesses. Alpha Coal, for example, these people have stepped to the plate and they want to be part of the solution, and quite frankly, they have to be if we're going to be successful.
I am very excited to see what the end result here in 5 years. Aren't you? I mean, I'm real curious to find out what will McDowell County be, and will it be this really shining example, as you say, a model, that not only for rural schools in Appalachia, even urban schools.
Absolutely.
If you've got, here's how we did it, here's how we turned this place around, I can't wait to see. I hope you are too. Judy Hale of the AFT and Bob Brown, also of the School Service Personnel Association. It's all the time we have, and I could talk more about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beth.
And here's a look at what's coming up in the House tomorrow. Among the bills up for passage in the House tomorrow, House Bill 2657 to establish the West Virginia Religious Freedom Restoration Act. House Bill 4020 to recognize outstanding students who are top scorers on certain statewide tests. House Bill 4049 requiring the Department of Environmental Protection to maintain an Office of Internal Auditing. House Bill 4260 relating to insurance coverage for autism spectrum disorders, and House Bill 4327 to require each birthing facility licensed by the Department of Health and Human Resources to perform a pulse oximetry screening for congenital birth defects on every newborn a minimum of 24 hours after birth. Among the bills on second reading in the House tomorrow, Senate Bill 379 to authorize the State Nursing Board to designate programs in which nurses may be monitored while they pursue treatment and recovery for alcohol abuse, chemical dependency, or emotional illness. House Bill 2740 prohibiting homeowner associations from restricting the installation of solar energy systems on houses. House Bill 4028 to authorize the temporary suspension of certification of emergency medical service personnel or the license of an emergency medical service agency without a hearing or prior notice if there's probable cause there's a danger to public health or safety. House Bill 4037 to require licensing boards to consider military training, experience, and education toward qualification for professional or occupational licenses. And House Bill 4530 allowing public utilities to sell bonds as a means of alternative financing to avoid consumer rate increases. This has been the Legislature Today. We leave you tonight with the bluegrass sounds of the Putnam family from Looneyville in Roane County. I'm Beth Voorhees. Thanks for joining us. Good night.